Hello, this is Dr. V again for the Burnout Show, and this week we have from Canada Ann Metcalfe here with us, and she's a teacher and a gut health advocate, and she's been on this amazing journey of learning spiritual growth since she was diagnosed herself with sarcoidosis 20 years ago. She lives in Delta, BC, Canada, and you also like circle dancing and gardening. So my first question to you is, and first of all, thank you so much for be willing to share your time and your knowledge with us. We've never had anybody on the show speaking about the importance of the microbiome. And I'm very interested. It started almost 30 years ago. I was working in Paris and I read a book about a doctor who said, what if it all starts in the gut? And it was about mental well-being. And now, those days, that was really, really innovative. Me in medical school, we never were taught about the microbiome and the importance it has on your whole body system and even your mental health. So I'm very, very fascinated by it. And if you can give us some golden nuggets after you tell me shortly actually, we already know you started on this learning journey because you had a serious illness yourself. But is that the reason why you've developed this passion for teaching about the microbiome? So how did it come about?
Well, indirectly, V, because 20 years ago, I had sarcoidosis in the lung, and at that point, it was an autoimmune disorder. My doctor didn't really know anything about it, and it was a choice of prednisone. And I was a registered nurse at that time, and I'm going, I don't really want to be on prednisone, so I did my own research, and then I went on a raw food diet, and that basically after a year of eating raw food, smoothies, all sorts of things, my lungs healed themselves, my body healed itself, and now 20 years later. Now I understand how that worked because I didn't know anything about the microbiome back then. I knew nothing about it. And so now, and research is changing. Like the last 5 years, they've learned so much. And you read that book 30 years ago. What if it began in the gut and that guy was ahead of his time?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
He was dropping the seeds, and scientists now are looking at it, all our health, all our lifestyle diseases, they're all relating it to the inflammation in the gut.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So awesome. So I know you've prepared a fantastic presentation for us. So feel free to share your screen and go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. It is so wonderful to be here. I'm so thrilled and honored to be here. There we go. So here we are, your gut microbiome. This is beautifully, divinely divine system with the earth, our bodies. And it's just, I am just so grateful every day at how my body works. And, you're working with these people who are exhausted and overwhelmed. And that affects the gut microbiome. And we're talking way beyond sort of the butterflies in the stomach before a performance. That's temporary. But when it's a chronic stressed condition, that's when things start to happen. It's when the cortisol, instead of being a short term, it becomes a long term. And in my reading, even just in these few days, and I'm so grateful that you invited me to talk about this, because I've learned things that I didn't know about. And I'm going, wow, these are things that will be helpful just for my own self and even my family. And so the stress and the sort of the burnout, it's enough to tax your gut and worsening any existing inflammation that you've got, and you again, there's anxiety, and leads to substance abuse, insomnia, and a lot of GI problems. And so our gut has got everything to do with how we our physicality and how we're feeling. And they now know that we've got two brains. There's a brain in our gut and in our head. And apparently the gut has 500 million nerve endings sending feedback to our brain, which is 5 times more than what's going through your spinal cord. But the stress upsets the whole divine system under our normal sort of circumstances. And so let's just go to the next. This is sort of an overall, we've got this, for me, it's like, can we have a love affair with these gut buddies? And so we came from the gut buddies. What are they? They're our hunter-gatherer system. And I won't be talking about all these things on the slideshow. I'll be talking on this screen. I'll be talking to different elements of them. And they are in constant communication, our body, with these 60 trillion cells of consciousness that's constantly, and through our body, our mind, and our spirit. We are this beautiful collective system connected to the earth. And the gut biome is part of that system. And so the stress undermines our harmony that the body knows how to create. And our hunter-gatherer ancestors, they could cope in the long run because their system was aligned with their environment. I mean, now we go to the store and we can buy anything we want. And we buy packaged food, processed food. There's increased sugars in our food. And there's the inflammatory 5 that affects our gut microbiome, the sugars, the wheat, and the hidden sugars in our food. And so all those things sort of affect our total body health. And so I'm going to just talk briefly about what are they. So you've got the gut microbiome is this whole complete system within our digestive system. And our digestion starts with basically when we first smell the food, we look at it, the brain starts sending signals to our gut, and then you've got the whole digestive system within that tube, and then we poop everything out at the end. And so the microbiome is this collection of bacteria, viruses. There's the archaea, which I'm not quite sure what they do yet. There's even parasites. So it's this ebb and flow of microorganisms within our gut. And something that's really interesting is the gut wall is only 1 cell thick. It's thinner than your strand of hair. And then you've got the brain, the vagus nerve is really tied into this whole system. And I'll talk about the breathing later. So the gut microbiota is all these little bits and pieces, and they all have different purposes. And they know now that, they're like 30, according to some Dr. Will, the 37 trillion gut bacteria and viruses in our system. And they all work together. They're working with the nervous system, they're working with the blood system, every system in our body. And it's how this gut microbiota works. So what's happening when you get the, if your food's not digested properly, if you don't chew it long enough, the gut, it takes it too long to digest. And so you get these macromolecules, and these macromolecules break through these little single cells, like ripping a hole in a piece of cheesecloth, and it creates a rip, and then the macromolecules go in, and even then all the tiny partially digested food bits go into the circulation system. And that's where the inflammation is created. It's actually inflammation within the gut itself and then within our total system. So it's this little gut wall is so important for us to keep it strong and healthy. And just going, so that's just kind of the basic, the microbiota, and generally I get to call it the microbiome, which is this complete system. So just imagine your gut like this beautiful flowing creek. It's a brook, it's nurturing your body, and it has this complete system. And then within that system, we've got the digestive organs, you've got the liver, the gallbladder, and then the small intestine, which is all the longest one, and then the colon. And they all play together in this beautiful digestive system that we have. And then what happens is when the stress comes along, you have the increased cortisol, which does a huge number within the gut microbiome. Antibiotics, apparently, they're finding that it actually makes one study, it made 9 bacteria extinct within the gut, within the system. And if you've got 37 trillion and you say, well, we just lost 9. Well, that doesn't sound like very many, but we don't know what specific job that those bacteria had within our digestive system. And so we need to really be aware of that. And what they're doing now, it's a new technique of saving the original gut bacteria, is they actually do poop transplants. And they're doing studies now where people who know they have to have antibiotics, they save a sample of their stool, their poop, and then they give it back to themselves through enemas and that kind of thing. So they're reintroducing what their original microbiome was, so that those ones that were destroyed with the antibiotics are given back to that person with their own poop. I mean, it sounds kind of gross, but it's new research. They used to think poop was nothing, and now it's really, really important. Another thing is poor. Yes.
Yeah, there's another study that I love, is where you can get poop donated from skinny people, and if you get that introduced in your own colon, then it helps you to lose weight, because they have the correct bacteria for weight loss. So yeah, that is very interesting, and I guess it could work the other way around too. But yeah, it's very interesting, that research. Thank you for bringing that up.
It is. And actually they did, and along with that study, because they did that with twins, and one was skinny and the other was fat, and they introduced one to the other, and the other ended up losing weight.
Yes.
But they also found the reverse happened. So you really need to know who your host is, and that's why they're encouraging people to use their own rather than somebody else's.
Yes.
Yeah, a whole new realm of research. Poor food combining also affects the digestive process of the food. Things like melons should always be eaten by themselves. And even our typical meal of the hamburger and the bun, having the grain with the meat, is actually not the best combination, because it's harder for the system to digest it all. So you're better off with your burger and a salad and vegetables, and just have the if you're going to have a meat or a veggie burger, don't have the bun with it, because it's the wheat and the meat combination that's not really healthy for the gut.
Yeah, I prefer
Eating on the run. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, just sort of stop me when you need to. Eating on the run, because when we're eating, it's the parasympathetic nervous system that's working, and that's the rest and digest. But when you're eating on the run and when you're stressed, That's the fight or flight. And when that happens, your digestion shuts down because it's going to the extremities and what it is you need to do. And when you're already stressed, that just makes it even worse. And so they're finding that was used in, it is used in pesticides in farming. And they're finding that that is actually affecting how we digest our food. And so with the cortisol, the stress, you've got increase in cortisol, and that has another impact. In the next slide, I'll show you how that affects the gut microbiome. So you've got less gut harmony. So you've got this flood. So when you, you've got the leaky gut syndrome going on because you've got holes in your, that one cell lining is allowing undigested food to get into your circulatory system. It stresses the liver. And then, you've got this sort of chaos going on. Multitasking, not really as good as we think it is. And having iced drinks and eating before bed actually affect our microbiome. So here we're stressed. You've got the higher cortisol levels, and you've got the gut that's not very happy. And so what's happening is you've got this increased inflammation within the gut itself. You've got a gut disruption going on. You've got an increase in diabetes, Crohn's, there's the whole obesity thing. And the cortisol actually increases gut permeability. And that means allowing more of what's inside the gut out where it's not supposed to be. The cortisol levels, it lowers the beneficial bacteria. And that's when the sort of the bad gut bacteria take over. They're supposed to be there. When bacteria gets, it uses up does its job, this particular bacteria clears that out and takes it out through where you poop it all out. But when they get, there's too much of them, then the beneficial bacteria can't do the job. The bad gut bacteria, they're part of the problem of the sugar addiction, because they just say, you know what, we love sugar. So it just upsets the whole process, that balance. When, you can eat a little bit of sugar, it doesn't bother you. But when there's too much of the bad gut bacteria going on, they take over. You've got a disruption in the immune system in the gut and a loss of protective barrier. And apparently 60% of your immune system is actually in the gut itself, which I didn't realize. I just thought it was just part of the body. You've got, you do the jumping every day to get the lymph system going, and that's only part of it. And the other thing that the cortisol does that I've learned, and I'm so grateful for this chat today, is that it awakens dormant viruses and bacteria in the colon. They actually reside in the colon. And when you get so stressed out, especially with chronic stress, the cortisol actually awakens these viruses, and they themselves create more toxins. So you get this huge buildup of toxins, and then you get the poor liver is trying to detox it all, because the food gets digested, it goes through, part of it does go through the cell wall in the minute amounts, goes into the liver, and then the liver cleans it and sort of disperses it through the circulatory system to the rest of your body. Well, what's happening is the liver can't handle it all. And so you've got a leaky gut, and then you end up with a leaky liver. And there's more and more incidences of the fatty liver disorder. They're finding this in kids. And there's so many these people are not alcoholics, which is what it used to be associated with. And it's because of this whole, the gut microbiome is basically overwhelmed. I mean, we've got toxins, environmental toxins coming in. You've got in your air, the water, the glyphosate. And so you've got an overtaxed gut biome. And so the gut, because it's overtaxed, it's the immune system within it isn't working properly. And so the gut, it can't suppress the pathogens coming in. It can't process the drugs or the food, especially when it's not been, the processed food, especially, or a chemically grown food. So it can't deal with the toxins. So the poor liver has to deal with it all. The gallbladder gets overtaxed as well. Then all the organs in our body, the kidney, the brain, the heart, and the actual bad gut bacteria, they actually create these endotoxins, which also is part of the whole leaky gut syndrome. And so you've got this whole plethora of things going on that is happening just with sort of the normal body. And then when you've got stress added to it, it's just like this explosion. And the poor gut is just going like, what the heck do we do? And it's something interesting that I've was reading about is where the inflammation goes in our body is actually unique to every person. So some people might get, say, arthritis. And I guess for me, it went into my lungs. So the lungs was maybe kind of like my Achilles heel. And for other people, it's different parts to their body. It might be the gallstones. Well, apparently, and there's like 750,000 people a year in the States getting their gallbladders out because they have gallstones and they get the gall pain. Well, they take them out. Well, the liver no longer has a storage for the bile. And the bile needs to break up the fats in our body. And, I mean, apples also help take fats out of the body with the pectin in it, but we need the gallbladder. And so I'm really hopeful that a lot of this information is reaching the regular doctors. They say, okay, you know what? You've got a gallbladder, you got gallstones, but you know what? We know there's ways of clearing that up without taking it out. So often we just, it's like, cut you open, take it out, don't need it. Oh, you don't need the appendix anymore. Well, maybe we do. We just don't know what it's for. There's so many sort of unknowns. And so, yeah, there's just so much that this cortisol does. So when we can bring the cortisol levels down, then our gut has a better way of doing that. So how do we do that? How do we bring down the stress levels and bring down the cortisol? Walk in the woods. The Japanese have been doing this for a number of years. And first I thought it was the extra oxygen in the blood, and that's part of it. But apparently the soil and the actual plants themselves are giving us energy or their essence, and that is assisting our body. And I've learned that deep breathing in through your nose and out through your nose actually increases carbon dioxide, which has a sedative effect. And there's that molecule. So you breathe, and when you're doing that deep breathing, the parasympathetic system through the vagus nerve and the pressure from the lungs, the diaphragm, it's impacting the liver and the vagus nerve, and that is helping relax the body as well. And eating organic plants reduces the toxins in your gut. And the research is showing, I was reading Dr. Joe Pizzorno, and what they're finding is that the plants know how to detoxify bacteria and viruses that they get in the soil, in the gardens that they're grown in. And also sort of probably the chemicals that the humans are putting in the soil, actually it takes away the plant's ability to create those antitoxins in the plant. And so when we eat those plants, those organic ones, we get that ability to protect ourselves. So it's a whole new understanding for me about why it's important to have organic food. I understood the concept of not, just growing it organically, but the fact that the plants we're eating protects us. I was going, oh my gosh, what a precious gift. And even better, if you can grow your own food, that's closer to the plant soil relationship that we have. And intermittent fasting, which has become quite popular, is allowing this special bacteria. It's called the Akkermansia muciniphila, and it grows in the colon, and it's only found in the colon. And what happens is that bacteria actually eats away at the mucus layer in the colon, but that eating away process helps build the mucus layer even stronger. And so when you do the fasting, that bacteria is strengthening our gut lining in the colon, and which is our first line of defense. And so we can also build up that Akkermansia with polyphenol-rich food, the blueberries, the berries, and there's so many foods out there. And that's why eating a diversity of food, the whole rainbow concept of eating food makes such a difference in, for one, so many of the root vegetables, they actually provide the food. That's what the prebiotic is, the food to feed the health bacteria. So when we have an overrun of the kind of the bad gut bacteria, when we eat those rich foods and the polyphenols and the fiber, because the bacteria feeds on the fiber and it becomes strengthened. And then of course the fiber gets everything moving through the colon. And there's one other doctor, I think that's Zach Bush, was saying that we need to have ideally 2 bowel movements a day. Mm-hmm. And because that's cleaning out your colon. And so that it's working the way it's supposed to do. It's, the small intestine absorbs a lot of the nutrients, and the colon does too. And things like green plants contain cycloids, and those cycloids actually don't get digested until sort of further down your digestive tract, and that all helps the digestive process. And there's Dr. O'Brien has this challenge. He says eat 8 different colored vegetables for 3 days. And look at what that does to your brain functioning, because he really feels that by just sort of flooding your body with the vegetables, that whole process, because you're reducing the inflammation. And with a reduced inflammation, the gut, the immune system, everything is working in this beautiful design manner. And there was something else about the vegetables. Anyway, I might come on to the next slide. So there's other things I've been learning about in my Ayurvedic study, is how spices can heal the gut. They reduce inflammation. They assist the body in the digestive process. There's a soothing tea. It's called CCF, and it comes from a friend of mine that I'm in her Ayurvedic program. And she's got, it's called Good Gut Ayurveda. And so she's got all sorts of recipes. And so all these different seeds that's used in the Indian culture, and they've been knowing this for 5,000 years, it brings balance and harmony to our digestive system, because that's what Ayurveda is all about. It's about a healthy digestive system. And this is just a list of herbs and food that actually feed actually feeds the gut. The chamomile calms the nerves and gets the digestive juices flowing. So there's all these different things, and I can send this information to you later if you like.
Yeah,
And so
and I just have to interrupt you because I do have
yeah.
another call coming up. So thank you for all of this great information.
Okay.
Do you work with people to help them heal their gut, or what is it that you do?
Well, I do. My program is called Trust Your Gut.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a course last year, and I'm going to be doing a new one in September. And I use a way of tapping into our energy or our intuition.
Fantastic.
And through muscle testing, we learn what foods are best for us. And also with that new program, I'll be looking at all I've learned about the gut microbiome. And I'm just going to fast forward to.
Maybe you could just show me a slide with your contact details, because we
Yes, I will. Yeah.
time for more now.
And so if you go to Authentic Sacred Design, that's an app I have. And I've got a lot of free resources on there under the health and wellness topic, a little bit about the gut microbiome. And I also have a quaking aspen meditation. So I've in the special offer, I've got a 10 top tips your gut buddies will love you for. And if you just go to that app on your Android or your phone, and if you have if you want to talk to me about what I'll be teaching and the information that I know, just if you go to rosiesjoy11@gmail.com. So that's ROSIES11@gmail.com. You can contact me, and I can talk with you or any of the people that are interested in learning about what I've been doing.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. And you can turn your slides off, the screen share off for a moment.
Yeah, thank you.
So I can
There
say
we go.
goodbye in person. And this was really interesting. Interestingly enough, what you presented today is a part of my program, which is the Burnout Recovery Program. In the first module, I've got 6 modules. I teach exactly the same information. So it was a good refreshment for all the listeners. If they want to, I have a special on for the month of July where I give my energy and time enhancement modules. I have a special price for them at the moment. So it makes up about 5 modules for £97 at the moment. And I do weekly Q&As with my people online. So that's my special for this month. And I will make sure they have your contact details under the video. And then I would like to thank you again and keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you, V. I so appreciate you reaching out. And until we meet again.
Yes.
Namaste.
Sure. Namaste.
Thank you. All right.